2020 was full of surprises. Um, I don't have to mention about coronavirus and how it affected the world, but it was a good year for me, at least work-wise. I got a lot of things done, and I learned a lot of new things along the way. So in this video, I'll try to pinpoint and share the things that actually worked for me throughout the year, and the small successes that I had, and also my failures. And I hope in the way I can spread the message, because these are very powerful things that have really helped me, and I hope they help others also. So, part 1, successes. My motto in life for the past 2 years has been to calm your mind and be consistent. So these two things are really interrelated, because to be consistent, you need to have a very good mindset, and which means that I have to keep my mind calm. And if I keep my mind calm, it really helps me in being the consistent part. So first, I'll discuss about the different successes that I had in calming your mind part. Number 1, keep your world small. In this video, Andy Stumpf says that most people quit because they get overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. And he says that the solution to this problem is to really keep your world small, which means that you should avoid seeing the problem in its entire complexity. Instead, you should look at smaller and the immediate parts of it. And he says that if every day you keep addressing small parts of the problem, and if you do it long enough, eventually you will end up solving the problem. And I really liked this thought, to keep your world small, because it's really easy to get overwhelmed by huge tasks in your life. If you keep thinking about what will happen tomorrow, or what will happen a month from now, or from a year from now, it's just too much things to figure out. So a rather better approach is to just think about what you will do tomorrow, or what you'll do today, and just keep on doing it again and again and again and again. And this is something which has really helped me, because every time I feel like overwhelmed, okay, I have to do so many things, I really it just suddenly hits me that I have to keep my world small. So I take up one thing and I just focus on that. Number 2, when in pain, try to reach a clear thought. If you work really hard, and I don't mean physically, I mean if you're always involved in very mentally taxing tasks, like if you're a researcher, or if you're a software developer, or you are a scientist, then many times you end up pushing yourself too hard. And in those scenarios, your brain is literally so exhausted, and it can't really think straight, and nothing really seems to make sense what is going on, and everything seems futile. Those are the scenarios in which your brain is literally, and you yourself are literally in pain. So in this video, David Goggins says that in those moments, it's really important that you try to find a single clear thought where you're not burdened by your mind. And with that clear thought, you have to think about, why are you doing this? I mean, why did you even do this? And why is it so important that you're trying to do this? And he says that once you do that, you will eventually remember what kind of a person you are, and how many hurdles that you have passed through to get to this point, and how many big challenges that you have faced before. And once you are able to do that, it's really easy to see that some kind of a pattern where you realize that you have seen this problem in some way or other already. And then you start progressively, you start taking the problem down, and you start facing, and your mind and your body are ready to work on it again. So it's really important that when nothing makes sense, you try to find a clear thought and try to start working towards it. Number 3, no mind. In the movie Last Samurai, there's a scene in which Tom Cruise is practicing sword fighting with a native samurai, and he's not doing very well. And then In that scene, his friend comes to him and says that you have too many mind. What he meant was that Tom's mind was focused on too many things, like on what other people are thinking and how is he handling his sword and what his enemy is doing. And he says that the idea is to have no mind. It's more like a very calming mechanism in which you can get rid of all the thoughts that you're having right now and reinforce the fact that you have to have no mind. When you're doing your thing, you don't really have to worry about anything else that is creating a problem for you, and just have no mind. And it comes back to the sister notion of stillness of the mind. And if your mind is all over the place, you can't really enjoy the task you're doing. So you have to bring a stillness to your mind. And whenever I have to do that, I just remind myself to have a no mind, like the scene in the movie. Part 2, success in being consistent. Number 1, always finish your targets. This is something my mentor told me way back, and I never really appreciated it until 2020. So what happened was, I was, as I said, this was a very good year for me work-wise, which basically meant I ended up doing a lot of things. And I realized that so many times when you're when you are feeling like I have done enough for the day, and I think I can take a break, it's really easy to just give into that thought and stop doing your work. But throughout the year, many times what happened was I just said, okay, let me just finish this task. And to my surprise, what happened was that I was really close to finishing that task, and I never really realized it, that I was that close. So in retrospect, I think it's really important that you finish your task, because you'll never know how close you are to finishing your task until you actually finish it. Number 2, make your work self-play. This is something which I've really started to appreciate a lot, because sometimes if you just think of your task as a boring set of steps that you have to do, and then you will end up doing this, it's just not fun anymore. It's like you are just looking at the task, and it's just a list of steps that you have to go through. What self play does is that you realize, you start playing with what you're trying to do. And for me, that looks something like, if I'm trying to write a code, I'll say, okay, let me try this thing, what happens now. And if I'm trying to read something new, I try to compare it with whatever I already know, and I make it interactive for me, and I see how it is related to the different thing that I know. And that makes it much more interactive, and it fuels the curious nature, the curious side of mine. So it is something really helpful, because it makes the task more fun basically, and you just can get lost in doing it for hours if you are really good at making it. Number 3, controlling your morning. Since every morning you have like fresh reserves of your mental capital, it's better that you distribute it towards different parts of your day, and not just throw a very huge complex problem at yourselves every morning. So the idea is, wake up every morning and listen to some good music, and not think about anything till you start working, and then use your mental capacity. And if you couple it with what I had just told about making your work self play, you can work for really long, and it feels really good because you're enjoying while working. Failures of this year. So the first and the most embarrassing part is my failed research projects. I was trying to achieve something which I thought would be really great and would be really helpful. And in retrospect, I realized that I just set a very huge target for myself without having the deep knowledge that I think would have been necessary to actually finish that task, and which is something I really failed. This is something I really failed at in 2020, which is the my research project that I was trying to do. Number two, burnouts. So compared to 2019, I only had one major burnout this year, and actually it was in the starting of the year around March, around April. But surprisingly, the last burnout, it actually helped me pivot into the right direction, at least what I think is the right direction, that that I have to gain much more knowledge about my field and understand it deeply before rushing towards publishing research articles and research papers. So that's what I've done mostly throughout 2020, is like get a better understanding of how things actually work and how they are interconnected, basically making it a self play of understanding how things actually work on a very deep level. And this kind of failure actually turned really good for me, because this is something, understanding things on a very deep level is something which I'm definitely continuing ahead into 2021 and maybe rest of my life. Number 3, consumption of information. This is something I struggle with daily, because my brain has become habitual of the quick dopamine that you get from watching online stuff and social media and videos that you find on YouTube. And the problem is that I am constantly looking for the next shot of online dopamine, and whenever I'm free, it ends up it results in me spending a lot of time spending online. And this is like the exploration versus exploitation problem in RL, where because of my exploratory nature, I found so many things that I shared with you till now. But lately, I'm kind of stuck in the exploitation part, where I'm just repeating my old actions, and I'm just trying to find some dopamine through that, some positive reward through that, and I am seeing diminishing results from that. So basically, I have to change my policy and try something new, and which basically in a very non-nerd way means that I have to stop consuming so much information. So this is an area where I didn't really succeed much in 2020, and I hope to make changes in 2021. So that's it. um, I made only one video in the entire 2020. I don't know if that will be the case in 2021, but it was really important that I did share it, because whenever I look back at these videos that I put off my own, I really get a glimpse of what kind of mental state I was in during that time. And it really helps me in remembering all the things that I went through to be where I am right now. I hope this video leaves a positive impact on whoever is watching this. Yeah, there were many more things that I could have talked about, but I think these were the really important parts.